Superbike Show on Motorsport Radio.
Hey everyone, Bradley Smith.
Hi guys, I'm Danny Buchan.
I am Tom Sykes.
This is Motorsport Radio.
Hello and welcome. This is the Superbike Show, back once again on Motorsport Radio. My name is Lester. Thank you very much for tuning in. On tonight's programme, we will be talking about everything BSB, Stock 1000, Stock 600 as well, and previewing everything that's coming up at Alton Park in the second round of the 2019 BSB Championship. My name is Lester, and here with us tonight on the show, please welcome Liam Hodgins. Hello, good evening, Liam.
Good evening, Lester.
How are you?
I am very well. Can't complain. Up here in sunny Scotland.
I wasn't going to mention where you were, but okay, that's where Liam
well,
is.
You do it every single week, so
I thought this was going to be an exception. Anyway, good to have you on the show. Have you fully recovered from the weekend?
No, I haven't really.
Okay.
Sleep deprived, I'm not anymore, but I seem to have picked up a sore throat, which is
fantastic. Excellent.
It's getting better.
That makes two of us.
Oh, yeah, so we've all got croaky throats this week.
So just to let you know, Liam was commentating on round 2 of the Cool Fab Racing British Minibikes Championships live from Red Lodge, and it was exclusively live on Motorsport Radio. So, well done for doing that, even though it gave you a sore throat.
I don't know if it was more commentating or more screaming at the action, because it was just filled with action day after day.
Well, that's what you get for watching the 2019 Cool Fab Racing British Minibikes Championship. More about that a bit later. And also, please welcome back onto the show a fully wide awake and refreshed and not concussed Ed Hocknall.
I wouldn't be sure about wide awake, but yes, I'm here. Live from wet and windy, horrible Lincoln.
Excellent. Everyone's in a good mood then. That's what we want to hear coming into the weekend. So yes, it is Alton Park, and if you're actually going to Alton Park, a lot of people were asking on the Facebooks, on the BSB fans group on there, about spare tickets for camping. A lot of people pulling out, and there seems to be a kind of a shortage. It's a very popular round, is Alton Park. So we will periodically through the show dip into the comments, which you can disperse to us here on Motorsport Radio, and we are live this evening. It's the Superbike Show. And if you're not tuned in on the BSB fans Facebook group, you can also tune in, by the way, live on what's the Twitter? Is that the one we do? And Twitch as well. Twitch. Don't forget Twitch. I always forget Twitch.
That's the main one.
That's the one we always forget. So Twitter, it's at M Sport Radio. We're live on Twitch as well, and YouTube's, and also on motorsport.radio, streaming in audio and in video as well. So you're fully covered for the show tonight, and you can go back and listen on demand to any of your favourite arguments, or maybe if you I don't know, want to send in a comment, we'll read it out, debate about it, see if you're right or we're right, whatever. Then you're more than welcome to participate that way. So we will be talking about MotoGP and previewing this weekend's race, and also looking back a little bit at what happened at the Circuit of the Americas as well, and still the fallout from that continues. And there's lots to talk about in MotoGP, Moto2 as well, a bit of CEV news coming up, and also previewing the Superbikes Challenge game as well, which is happening again this weekend, telling you who's won the prizes and who's done really well. What is the Superbikes Challenge game? Well, we will tell you about it later on. It's free. You could win stuff. Tune in and check it out. More information on that in a bit. Plus, a full preview of BSB and what happened at Silverstone, any ongoing issues, and a bit of road racing news as well, courtesy of Mr. Road Racing here at Motorsport Radio, Ed Hocknall. That is all later, plus your comments and arguments as well at M Sport Radio on Twitter, in the comments box below, wherever you're tuned into this. And shall we begin then? It's MotoGP time, Liam.
Yes, it is absolutely MotoGP time, and we're not going to be looking ahead to Jerez, which is this weekend just yet, but we're going to rewind it 3 weeks ago back to Circuit of the Americas. And Marc Marquez, maybe surprisingly, or unsurprisingly, has come out and said that the crash, when he crashed out of the lead of the race, wasn't entirely his fault. He's blaming it on a mechanical issue, which had plagued. Yeah, but we've got to take his word for it. He has
as long as he's not blaming me, because I predicted he wouldn't win. So.
Well, hey, I'm surprised he's not blaming me because I predicted he would win, and he crashed out of the race, and I've been getting the commentator's curse put upon me. So, yeah, I'm just glad he's not come out and said that yet. That might be the next excuse. But he said that over the course of the full weekend, there was an issue with the bike, which the team knew about, and for the race, they tried to resolve it by going down a different direction. This problem was carried over from Argentina. It didn't work, so they crashed out. But Marc Marquez wouldn't specify on what the issue was. So just that they knew about it, and hopefully for Marquez, it has been resolved for this weekend. So we'll have to see if he doesn't really crash out of a race, if he's in the lead of it, and I won't predict anything just yet, just in case it does happen. Moving on to Valentino Rossi. Now, he's been looking formidable at the start of the 2019 season. So after 2 back-to-back second places from the first 3 rounds, he is now looking for a strong weekend here at Jerez. Now, he says it's very important for himself and Yamaha to find out if there's been a real improvement on this bike, because last year, and if you go back to 2017 at Jerez, Yamaha really struggled. Not so much last year, but mainly in 2017, mainly with the tyres and the bike reacting to the track surface. So this weekend is a big testing ground, but he believes, and Yamaha quietly confident, that there has been an improvement on this year's bike. Now, Andrea Dovizioso, who everyone just seems happy at the moment, believes that Rins and Rossi will be able to fight for the championship until the very end of the season. Not really saying if it'll all go down to the final round, because you can't really predict that. It's a 19-round championship. We're only going into round number 4 at the moment. But he believes that Suzuki has become a lot more competitive in 2019. Now, if you look back towards the end of 2018, Rins and Suzuki were showing a lot of competitiveness, and even Rins picked up some podiums towards the end of the season. Coming into this year, he has been looking very fast, lightningly fast, and Dovizioso believes that Suzuki has sorted the bike out and it's probably the sweetest bike on the grid. And he is also saying that Valentino Rossi has reworked his style. So if you cast your mind back to Qatar, people were talking about how Rossi has actually changed his riding style. Again, now, if you go back to 2014, he changed it to make it look, or to act a bit more like the modern day style of MotoGP. He refined it for 2017, and he's now changed it again for 2019. So that's what he believes has made Rossi more competitive in 2019. And Dovizioso was also saying he can't wait for Jerez, because he finds this as an opportunity for himself and Ducati to finally do well at the circuit. Now, you've got to cast your mind back to 2006, the last time that Ducati won in the MotoGP class at Jerez. That was back in the last season of the 990cc. So they've not even won in the 800s or even the 1000cc category just yet. And Dovizioso has never even scored a podium at Jerez in the Premier class. His best result has been 15th, which came back in 2014. And his last podium in any category came back in 2007, where he scored a 3rd place. And his previous best was the year before, where he scored a 3rd place again in the 250 class. So it's looking like that he could be in for a very good weekend. I don't want to say anything, maybe touch wood, that he'll be okay. But he's feeling very confident so far that he can... Yeah, I feel like I'm walking a tightrope at the moment of what I can and can't say, just in case I jinx another rider from crashing out of a good position in a race. So he might do well, but he's feeling very confident, as he said to a radio station in Italy throughout the past week. Now, talking about Alex Rins, now he might be able to do something that has not happened for Suzuki since Kenny Roberts Jr. So the first one being that he might be able to pick up the first back-to-back victory since Kenny Roberts Jr., not in the year 2000, but the opening rounds of 1999, which was Sepang and Motegi. So over 20 years ago. Yeah, I mean, yeah, very, very wet race at Motegi. It was one of the wettest races of all time in the 500
horrendous conditions.
Yeah, it was. It was. I can't believe they even let them race, but I wasn't even watching MotoGP at that point. I even knew anything about it. I just watched it on a season review a few years later, and it looked like a lot of fun. But Kenny Roberts Jr. Managed to pick up back-to-back wins. And incidentally, you might remember this wee stat. It was the last 2 races that Mick Doohan ever competed in, because when they went to Jerez, a couple of weeks later, he had his massive accident and never raced in MotoGP again.
Interesting.
So,
did not know that.
Yeah, there you go. Wee fun fact for you. Alex Rins, as I was saying, might be able to pick up back-to-back wins. The bike is looking super good at the moment, really competitive. He believes that the GSX-R is suited to this circuit, so the chassis works very well. As we said, it's the sweetest handling bike. The long, fast corners, the lack of long straights could really play into the hands of Suzuki and Alex Rins. And also, if he wins this weekend, it'll be the first win that for Suzuki at Jerez since Kenny Roberts Jr. won back in the year 2000 in an aggregate race. So he didn't finish first on the road, but since he was leading the race before the stoppage, he managed to win the race in total. So that's a pretty fun couple of wee facts there. A couple of last wee things. Honda have been suffering a few chain issues in Argentina and at the Circuit of the Americas. Oh, yeah. Now, they believe they've isolated that issue, managed to sort it, and coming into this weekend, they believe it will be completely sorted, so there won't be any issue. So basically what happened is when the rider was changing gear coming out of a corner and they were riding on the curb, when they changed up the gear, what would happen is the chain would jump off the sprocket, and that's how the chain would come off. So it's been a strange issue. We've never really seen a chain come off a sprocket for a long, long time, especially in MotoGP and especially to a Honda. So that looks like it's been sorted. And KTM, if you haven't heard the news, have extended the contract of Miguel Oliveira into 2020. So he scored points twice in the season opener. He's got more points than factory KTM rider Johan Zarco, only by 2 points, but he's still got more points. And it looks like the Hafid Siren might be the rider in the firing line at the moment, because they're looking towards maybe bringing Brad Binder up from Moto2 into the MotoGP Tech 3 squad alongside Oliveira for next season, but nothing yet, just a bit of speculation at the moment. And you might remember back to Argentina and obviously swing arm gate, or whatever you want to call whatever that device is Ducati have on the bottom of the swing arm. Lynn Jarvis has come out this week and said that he didn't feel strongly enough to protest along with the other manufacturers against it, but he believes it would have been better to be resolved at the MSMA meetings instead of doing it at a court of appeal. But he says that when asked the question if Yamaha will go down their own route and maybe incorporate their own device onto the bottom of the swing arm, he just basically said, we're looking into it. So Yamaha could have that device on their bike in the next couple of rounds. And unfortunately for all Czech Grand Prix fans, this could be the last season. 2019 could potentially be the last season of the Czech Grand Prix at Brno. It's a fan favourite for many. It's one of the biggest attended crowds in the whole of the calendar. And what is happening is basically the government isn't willing to support the round as strongly as it has done in previous years. Now, it basically needs 2.1 million euros to support the race, but the government's only willing to put about 1.3 million into it. So it looks like it could potentially lose its spot in the calendar. It might not. It might get some new investors. But the domino effect from that is Carol Abraham, whose dad owns the circuit, might not be able to sponsor the Aventia Ducati team in which Carol Abraham rides in, so he might lose out on his seat. And I was reading in the MCN news that Alvaro Bautista, if he goes on to win the World Superbike Championship in 2019, he might be able to use the clause in his contract, which means he can get back into MotoGP. So that could mean that Carol Abraham is out of a seat for 2020. It's a crazy one how the whole thing, from a circuit losing its, or potential losing its position in a calendar, can make a rider lose his position in MotoGP paddock. So that'll be a shame if Carol Abraham does lose his seat, because he brings in a lot of fans from the Czech Republic, brings them along to the Czech Grand Prix. But it'll be a massive shame if Brno loses its position in the calendar, because you've got likes of Finland and lots of other circuits looking for that slot in the calendar in 2020. And a couple of
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say something, Lester. So, no. But coming into this weekend, it is the 300th MotoGP race. Now, it's not including the 500 cc's, but it's the MotoGP class. So from Suzuka 2002 up towards present day, it is the 300th race. So we've had 289 previously, and no surprises, who has the most amount of wins? Valentino Rossi with 76 wins in the MotoGP class, which I believe is like just over 25% of the entire race wins throughout the entire series. Jorge Lorenzo, 47, and Marc Marquez in third with 45. So if Marc Marquez wins this weekend, he'll move within one win of Marc Marquez. And coming full circle, if Rossi wins this weekend, he would have won race number 1 of the MotoGP era and race number 300. And it's also 20 years, the 20th anniversary of Valentino Rossi probably given his most famous celebration of stopping off in the Portaloo at the end of the 250cc race and going, well, he didn't actually go to the toilet, but it would have been quite cool if he did. But you might remember 10 years ago when he won the MotoGP race in 2009, he done it again. So it'd be quite cool if he wins this weekend, if he sort of shows homage to that celebration by doing it again. So you never know. It'd be quite. I think some people just want to see him winning just to see if he actually does the toilet celebration again to celebrate the 20th anniversary of that celebration. And Monster Energy Yamaha have announced their first esports rider. So the double world champion will be on bike number 58. So he'll be competing in the esports this year, which is great for Yamaha. It's great for gamers like myself. I don't know if Ed's a gamer, but they're getting a lot of support in the esports championship. So
didn't they do this last year, or wasn't it existing last year or something? This esport moto, whatever it is.
It started in 2017. I'm a bit bitter about it because I've missed out in the last couple of years. Not by much, but by a little bit. So yeah, they run it at Valencia every single year, and the riders get to meet the esports riders get to meet the factory riders. So esports is an ever-growing competition, not just in MotoGP, but in every single gaming sector, in Call of Duty, Formula One, rallying, everything like that. So the prize money is absolutely huge, and MotoGP teams are encouraged, or they do now, to have their own esports riders. So it's quite good that they have this. Funny wee story is when a bunch of us were waiting for the likes of Valentino Rossi to come out the back of his garage at Valencia last year, what happened is this esports rider just walked right through us all and just walked into the back of the Yamaha paddock, and we're just all standing there going, what the heck? That's not even fair. But it took us about 10 minutes to realise he was one of the esports riders. So yeah, it's quite good that Yamaha, MotoGP are taking this all on board and giving these riders a lot of promotion. And the cool thing is they basically got a Yamaha MotoGP bike in the garage and put his number and all his sort of sponsorships and stuff, or not sponsorships, but his own promotional stuff on the bike. And he managed to get a picture with Valentino Rossi and Maverick Vinales. So
yeah, his name's what is it? Lorenzo D'Aresi, apparently a double esports world champion.
Yeah, so he's one of the both years. I had heard of him because I've seen his name on. I've seen his lap times and stuff on the game, and he's quick, very quick. So I've gone chasing after him a few times, but he's doing well, so he deserves it. As I said, he was on bike number 58. And talking of bike number 58, on this day, back in 2004, so 15 years ago, at Jerez, Marco Simoncelli won his first out of his 14 Grand Prix victories. So in a very wet 125cc race, and if you remember back to that, it was absolute torrential conditions the whole weekend, or the whole race day, in 125, 250 and MotoGP. And Marco Simoncelli, a star was born on that day when Marco Simoncelli won his first ever 125 race.
What circuit was that again?
Jerez, which is on this weekend.
Was that the same race I was watching? That was being streamed on the MotoGP Facebook?
Yeah, it was. I've not watched it actually since 2004. Now, if I think back to it, it was round number 2 of that season, and Casey Stoner on the KTM at the time was leading the race by quite a bit, but he aquaplaned off the circuit just coming into the stadium section. From
memory, I think it was Stoner's third 125, second or third 125 race.
No, it was his second season, but his second race with the KTM.
Right, that was but also a 16-year-old Jorge Lorenzo was competing in that race.
That was a brilliant season for future world champions. You had Andrea Dovizioso, who went on to win the championship that year. You had Casey Stoner racing on KTM. You had Jorge Lorenzo on the Derby, which was not the best bike to be on, but he managed to pull some amazing race wins out of it. You had Marco Simoncelli, you had Matteo Pessini, you had Thomas Luthi, you had Mickey Callio, you had the list goes on. It was one of the the golden seasons for 125 racing.
Yeah, because I didn't actually see. I saw the stream pop up on the Facebook on MotoGP, and I started watching it. I didn't actually read the title properly, and I've seen all these names like you just mentioned. I'm thinking, oh, cool, okay, old racing. I'm thinking, wait a minute, 16-year-old Lorenzo. Hang on a minute, and I'm looking carefully. Oh, right, 125.
Yeah.
But like you say, yeah, it's it just confused me quite a lot watching that, because all the names then are massive names now, aren't they? So at the start of the grid. So that was interesting fact. Any other bits of interesting stuff about MotoGP before we move on?
Not in the MotoGP class. I think I rallied through them pretty fast. As I said, 300th race this weekend, so there's lots of stuff being put out there about it, including the review for this weekend that's up on Motorsport Radio, and it's got lots of facts and fun stuff in there about the 300th race in Jerez as well. So Valentino Rossi, if he wins this weekend, that would be the second time that he's won a 10th race at a circuit, the first one being Assen, which was in 2017, so he could do that this weekend, and that'll mean that he's come pretty much full circle again. So 24th race this weekend. Could potentially.
Yeah, we will get onto the predictions a bit later on, which is where you kind of fall flat on your face, to be honest.
Oh yeah, big time.
But yeah, we'll do that a bit later. Because we are live right now on the Superbike Show, you can get in touch with us and let us know and say things like hello or what are you talking about, Liam? You're totally wrong. Or what do you want about Leicester? For example, or you can just leave your comment in the comments box below, no matter what it is. We'll read out all of the very best ones. Amongst others, it's Sam Clow's been on, a traditional listener to the show. Hi, Sam. He says, hi, Leicester. Hi, Sam. Good evening. Yes, hope the leg is better. He broke his leg, I think, recently whilst he was out skiing, I think. He broke something, doing something somewhere. With his partner.
I know how bad that can be, because I started snowboarding for a bit and it was great fun, but my goodness, the amount of times I nearly snapped my leg was incredible. So I managed to get out of that quite quickly and and with all my bones intact. So
interesting. I've never been.
It's one of the many things that I've tried.
A big hello to Nat Jarvis, tuned in. Hello. And to Elliot York as well. Hello, Elliot. Probably tuned out by now. Hello, Simon Hall. And Steve Godfrey as well. Hello, good evening, guys. And also, yes, a big hello to Mr. Kim Hollings as well, who is just saying hello, popping in. I suppose he's not doing much on this Thursday evening, apart from listening and being educated about bikes and stuff, which we all are at the moment, which is fantastic. You are listening to the Superbike Show. It is Motorsport Radio, and we have another emergency comment just flooding, Liam. This one's from Grant Hodgins, who says, Liam, you're totally wrong. That phrase is used all too often with Liam. That's Mr. Grant Hodgins.
Yeah, that's my uneducated brother. So, he believes he's right all the time and that I'm always wrong, but he doesn't know that I've got a big stat book of everything that's MotoGP related.
Since he's tuned into the show and doing the sensible thing and getting involved and joining the discussion, I would say he's absolutely correct. And Liam, you're totally wrong.
No, not at all.
In this case. But
you've never met him.
Yes, I suppose. Yeah, that's true. So, keep your comments coming in. Luke Lehman, hello. Good evening, Luke. He says, how long for BSB? Yes, good question. We will be talking about that shortly. That's what's called a tease in radio. So you are listening to the Superbike Show. It's Motorsport Radio, and on to Moto 2 now. And what's going on in Moto 2, Liam?
Not much, to be honest. Matteo Pessini will return this weekend. Not part of the Cito Pons team, which he was part of at Circuit of the Americas, where he picked up an amazing fourth position. Now you've got to remember, Pessini hadn't ridden a Triumph-powered Moto 2 bike until he actually turned up at the Circuit of the Americas. He was riding a Calyx at the Circuit of the Americas, but he's going to be riding a KTM this time, and he's going to be replacing Jake Dixon. Now, Jake Dixon, you might remember, got concussed at Circuit of the Americas during FP1 where he crashed out.
Yeah.
He's been to a specialist, and they basically just all decided that it wouldn't be wise to try and ride this weekend. He wouldn't be back to full fitness. So it's good that he's taking this seriously. Concussion is not something that you should be tempering with or tempting fate with, especially racing a motorbike, because you're not just endangering yourself, you're endangering a lot of people around you. Now, we know in the past that the likes of, well, I won't name names, but there's been riders that have actually raced on MotoGP bikes while being concussed. Now, some stories have come out over the years that that's happened, so it's very mature that Jake Dixon and the specialists have actually all decided not to race this weekend because it'd be too much of a risk. So Matteo Pessini will be taking over his spot in the Angel Nieto Aspar team, and we never know. We might be able to see Matteo Pessini do very well this weekend, and fingers crossed that Jake Dixon will be back for Le Mans in a couple of weeks. Dunlop will be introducing a new larger rear tyre this weekend, which is going to be 10 millimetres wider in diameter compared to what they've had. Now, they tried it out in testing.
Quite a lot.
Oh, yeah, it's quite a big difference. So it's basically just going to help with traction, with the power coming out of the corners, a bit more rear end stability as well, which I don't know why Moto2 need that, because they already look like they've got a ton of rear end stability. But Dunlop, they've tested it over the winter, but they wanted to wait until they came to Europe to race it. So what they were using was a 2018 tyre, which done a fantastic job anyway, so everyone was happy with that. But they feel like the 2019 tyre with the Triumph powered bikes, which has a bit more torque in it, will be more suited to this bike as well. So they've also brought a harder tyre, which will be more suited to the abrasive track surface. Now, I forgot to actually mention this in the MotoGP rundown. The track has been resurfaced again. Now, going into 2018, it was resurfaced, but people felt like it wasn't good enough. So coming into 2019, most of it has been resurfaced once again.
It's not as bad as Silverstone was last year, though, is it?
No, it wasn't. Thankfully, it wasn't as bad as Silverstone, but we'll probably wait until the Silverstone round before we get onto that one. So, yeah, it's good that Jerez and the organisers have done this, have taken on board the complaints of last year, resurfaced it once again, so it should be a much grippier circuit and one that gives the riders full confidence. Now, it's an abrasive circuit, so we are expecting possibly a lot of, well, I wouldn't say a lot of, but maybe a few issues where maybe some tyres won't hold up to what the abrasive circuit or surface is giving it. You might remember back to Phillip Island 2013 or back to 2017 or 2016 at Argentina. So, yeah, those races had to be shortened, put into a two-part race where you had to make a pit stop mid-race to change bike, to change tyre, just because they felt like the tyres wouldn't live up to the track surface. So, fingers crossed that doesn't happen this weekend.
So,
and in
sorry, I just have a question. Why have they decided to bring in the wider tyres now? Was this something that was pre-planned before the season, or are they just reacting to a abrasive circuit, maybe?
No, it's pre-planned at the start of the season. So they had tested it over winter time, but over the flyaway races, they didn't want to bring it in just in case there was issues. So they've tested it in Europe over winter or before the winter break and felt it was a really good tyre to use. So for comparisons, really, they decided to bring it in when they go back to Europe. So Jerez is a starting ground for it. So the 2018 tyre, they knew was a really good tyre anyway, so it knew would have been able to cope with the new powerful bikes, the Triumph engine. But for 2019, they thought it'd just be safer and better to go with a wider tyre, which gives better traction for the more powerful bikes, more grip in the rear end, more stability. So yeah, it's all an improvement for the show, I guess, and to make riders feel more comfortable, more confident, and more suited to what's going to happen or on the bike. It's not just the Moto2s that have been given a new tyre for this weekend. The Moto3s as well.
Oh, yeah.
Dunlop will be bringing 2 new rear tyres for them. A new soft tyre, the S2, and a new hard tyre, the H4. So there was a lot of positives during testing with this one. So they're bringing these tyres in basically to allow the riders to try and test it throughout the weekend and see if they like it a lot more than what they've been riding previously. So Dunlop are hard at work, giving the riders a lot to look forward to and a lot to smile about. Coming into this weekend, a couple of wee things to talk about. Romano Fenati has won everyone's favourite Italian in the Moto3s, has won previously at the Jerez circuit, once back in 2014, and 2 years prior to that, he picked up his first ever win So in his second ever race at 15 years old, he managed to pick up his first ever win in the class, which was the second ever Moto3 race. So he comes into this round feeling quite confident. Not had a great start to the season so far, but Romano Fenati being Romano Fenati, we never know what we can expect from him. And a nice wee fact that I found out from Kiko Giles when I was scrolling through Twitter yesterday, that Romano Fenati won both of his races from 10th in the grid. So that's a fun wee stat. If he starts 10th in the grid this weekend, we could possibly expect another race win from him.
Then we're all doomed. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, Fenati aside, we'll. I think we're all generally keeping our eyes still open for him to mess it all up, aren't we? Really? Yeah.
Yeah, but I get the feeling that he won't really do that this year because I feel like he's come back a more mature Romano Fenati, learned from his mistakes. He's kind of keeping out of the way. So much so that he's not really actually finishing any races, or if he does, they're not really in the points.
I think time will tell, to be perfectly honest, because every time he comes back from the latest controversy, he's always a more mature rider and he's learnt his lesson. And then, boom, he's just murdered 3 people.
Yeah, just wait till we get to Mugello. Just wait till we get to Mugello, where he's got the full Italian crowd just baying him on. So something is going to bubble over with him, but I'd say he's been kind of placid this season so far. He's just he's been so what's the word looking for? He's so determined to stay out of trouble. That's it. He has just. It looks like he's slowed down. I mean, he's not. He's been reluctant to get into these scraps on track, and
he even had to voluntarily penalise himself, didn't he?
Yes, it's even that. Although he was apparently receiving some kind of message on his dash at the time, and apparently the heat of the moment, he thought it was a penalty. It was a strange one, but I mean, you still need to get your elbows out to an extent in the Moto3 class and still fight your way to the top. Obviously, just don't go over the line and take someone out on purpose. I think he's obviously been given a very severe warning from the FIM, maybe Dorna as well, that if he is part of something major, that will be it. He will be out, never to return again. So he's definitely been on his best behaviour so far, but I say wait until we get to Mugello or Misano later in the season, when his home crowd are just urging him on, egging him on to take them, because he is still he's a very popular rider in his home country because he's got all the talent. He goes, but yeah, I'm not fully convinced by the good boy act so far.
Yeah.
I'm falling into it because he's not really done anything that's really asked for him to have a bad boy behaviour at the moment. So, but I completely get what you're saying, Ed. When it comes to Mugello, it could be the old Romano Fenati come back out again with the two swords and fighting everyone and pushing everyone off the track and picking up 500 penalties.
The real test for Fenati will come when someone makes that incredibly close pass on him and maybe rubs fairings against him. So, because that's usually been the trigger in the past that sets Fenati off doing something insane. So, I suppose it works both ways, doesn't it? Fenati's done all he can to keep himself out of trouble, but it's the red rag to a bull scenario. What happens when someone just gets a bit too close to him for comfort?
Maybe the officials should preempt a black flag, and just when that scenario actually happens, if someone cuts him up, give him a black flag just to say, listen, we know what you was going to do. We just saved your entire career. We just saved you from prison. You're welcome. Sort of
well, as soon as they start off from the grid, just black flag him right away. It's like we knew this was good. You were possibly going to do something, but just to save you a bit of time and just to save some riders' races.
I have been amazed that the whole Moto3 field haven't turned up with the supermoto like style brake guards on the front of their bikes to prevent Fenati from leaning over and yanking on the front lead yet. But it's something. It's that suspiciously too quiet. Something is going to kick off at some point, and it's going to be unmissable when it happens. Could it be Jerez? Potentially. because now we're back in Europe, the ground war, as it's called. The people who really want to fight for the championship tend to step up. And Fanati, for the sake of his career, he has to now, really, because he's had the 3 rounds. They haven't gone to plan. He's got to force his way to the front and be there now, get stuck in. So he's going to have to find that line between no holds barred racing and just narrowly avoiding taking people out.
Well, which we've seen from him before, because when he does race cleanly, it's hard but fair. And he's one of the most tough riders on the grid. But I think Fanati, when his bad moments happen, they're really bad. But when he does race fair but cleanly, and there's quite a lot of it he does, and we just don't take notice of it because he's usually in a lot of controversy. So I feel like, in a way, since we've put so much emphasis on his bad manoeuvres, and obviously last year his grabbing Stefano Manzi's brake was the most horrendous thing you can ever do, but I also don't think the amount of people that jumped on him and gave him such a hard time, and also it going all around the world on social media, it wasn't just bike people were talking about it, it was, even celebrities that don't watch bike racing. Yeah, it was on the news, it was everywhere about this crazy bike racer grabbing someone's brake and they could have murdered someone. Yeah, that was a bit too harsh, of just people blow it completely out of proportion, but I feel like that's also had an effect on him. And I just don't think we'll see the real Romano Fanati at all this year. So that's just my personal opinion on it, but I just think that he's taken so much of that on board that he's being too safe, too quiet. And I just don't think we'll see the Romano Fanati of old.
So what you're saying that we should... anyway. Let's just wish him all the best anyway for the racing ahead, and let's just keep an open mind as best we can about him messing it all up. Right, this is the Superbike Show. It is Motorsport Radio, and am I right in thinking that there's not that much Moto3 news? Or is
not much at all.
Not much at all.
It's like trying to scrape the bottom of the barrel to try and find out quite a lot about it. The wild cards, I couldn't find out if there was... I believe there will, because there's always wild cards in Spain, but I just couldn't find out in time who they were.
Well, if Elliot York is still tuned in, maybe you could tell us. He'd be the perfect person to ask, I suppose. Talking about stuff that was going on recently as last week, the CEV championships. Yes, there was quite a few Brits being represented in... where were they? Jerez?
They were at Valencia. Ricardo Tormo circuit. Yeah, so there was a lot going on there. As you said, there's a few Brits over there, as we know, Max Cook, Fenton Seabright. We've got lots of others as well. But we'll come on to the Moto3 first of all, where Max Cook is competing in this year, and he managed to score 15th place in race number 1, but in race number 2, unfortunately, was caught up in an incident in lap 1, so crashed out of the race. But the Moto3 races were actually very tight. It wasn't the sort of 18-rider Moto3 races that we're used to in the World Championship, but once again, yeah, 2 riders, they were going at it hammer and tongs, so it's just as good. In race number 1, you had Yuki Kuni and Chan On-Chu's brother, Dennis On-Chu. So they were...
Dennis, how is he?
I know. He's doing well. I hope he's doing well now, but he's a fast kid, so he'll be all right. So they were swapping paint every single lap until about 8 laps to the end. Mechanical issue hit Dennis On-Chu and he retired from the race, which left Yuki Kuni with a gap of about 6 seconds back to second place. So he was unchallenged after that incident, went on to take the win by about 8 seconds over the pursuing group. And in race number 2, he was chasing down Dennis On-Chu, and unfortunately turn number 2, Dennis On-Chu, I feel like it's a rhyme there, high-sided himself out of the race. Now, he looked like he was a bit uncomfortable on the deck.
Well, he would be.
Yeah, but a bit more so than being winded, so fingers crossed that Dennis On-Chu was okay from that one. So
I'd be crying my eyes out.
So would I. I'd be asking for all sorts of people to come over and help me stop the race. Can't race until I'm back on my feet, so maybe miss a few rounds. It was Risei Yamanaka, I hope I got his first name right, Yamanaka, sorry, to challenge Yuki Kuni on the final few laps, managed to pull an amazing move up the inside into the final turn. Sort of blocked Yuki Kuni from getting a run onto the home straight, and it was Yamanaka who took the victory ahead of his fellow countryman, Kuni. So it was a Japanese, I would say warfare. It wasn't really a warfare there. It was a Japanese sort of whitewash of the wins in the Moto3 class over the weekend. So they managed to do really well. And it looks like we've got some quick Japanese riders coming through the younger categories, which I'm absolutely happy about, because watch it, like for any old fans of World Superbikes or the younger years, the likes of Noriyuki Haga, Dajiro Kato, Yukio Kageyama, the likes of that. Just watching some young, fast Japanese riders come through again is absolutely brilliant to watch, because they're probably some of the maddest riders in the world. They're great fun to watch, all out action, and they just always try the heart out 110%. Unfortunately for Dennis Onchu, as we said, he DNF'd in both races. Fenton Seabright was competing in the European Talent Cup. Now he managed to pick up a second place position at round number 1 in Estoril. I didn't replicate that in race 2, unfortunately, but he managed to pick up himself a few points in both races. Finished 14th in race number 1, then finished 11th in race number 11th in race number 2, and he finds himself only 24 points behind the championship leader, so he's sitting 5th in the championship, which is really good for him, considering it's a really tight field in the European Talent Cup. If you don't know, they're all racing the same spec Hondas, so apart from changing settings, maybe the size of the riders, there's not too much difference in that class. They're all running the same bike, and the racing is absolutely fantastic. Over to Moto 2, and it was ex-champion Edgar Pons who picked up the victory in the class. So the son of 2-time world champion, or 3-time world champion, sorry, Sito Pons, and the younger brother of Axel Pons. And he also finished a few places ahead of his, well, not Axel Pons, but Edgar Pons. Managed to have another Pons in the race. Miguel Pons finished 5th. So Edgar Pons took the victory by...
Pons it is.
Yeah, there's a lot of Pons out there everywhere. So I feel like I'm just getting Pons stuck in my head now. Pons took the victory by only 9/10 of a second after a race-long battle with Hector Garzo. And Tommaso Marcone came in 3rd place, rounding out the top 3. So a lot of great racing out there. I would like to point out there was a horrendous crash for Nicky Tully in the race, where he crashed out at the turn just after the back straight.
Was this the one that went viral? Because I think I've seen this.
Yeah, he got struck by another rider's bike. So, yeah, the rider who was Matteo Ferrari, so he's raced in the World Championship before, he struck Nicky Tully. Now, he's been getting a lot of heat for not going over to see Nicky Tully if he was okay. Maybe we can make an argument that maybe he didn't notice his bike striking Nicky Tully as it battled through the gravel trap. We don't know, but in that case, he should have gone over to see if Nicky Tully was okay. But yeah, I've heard on social media, it's seemingly like Nicky Tully has come out the other end of it not too bad, which is good.
Interesting. Okay. And CEV, thank you for keeping an eye on all the CEV stuff.
You're welcome. I love watching the CEV Championship. It's one of the most competitive championships out there. So much fun to watch. The future stars come from that championship. Even though it's mainly Spanish based, that's where everyone wants to go. Even if you're a young Brit, young German, young Dutch rider from Asia, such as Japan, Thailand, they all want to get into that championship because that's where all the big money is. That's where all the sponsors are. That's where everyone really watches to see where the young talent's going to come from.
It's billed as the Junior World Championship, isn't it? So or certainly the Moto3 classes, because a lot of the Moto3 teams on the full World Championship, they of course have all their junior teams, the most junior setups in that Spanish Championship as well. So if they can get in there, they're set up all the way to the top, hopefully.
It is definitely, I suppose, still, even though the British Talent Cup is making good ground in forcing its way onto the international stage as being a proper breeding ground and proving ground, and almost a bit of a sort of a replacement for the CEV as being a bit of an option. As good as the British Talent Cup is and the BSB paddock, it is still all about the CEV for the most case anyway.
I think the best thing to look at to compare the British Talent Cup with F1 in the European, the Junior World Championship is the European Talent Cup, because you've got Fenton Seabright racing in both, and we know how good Fenton Seabright is. He has been on a podium. Yeah, he was on the show, not last week, the week before. It was great to have him on the show, but he's one of the championship favourites in the British Talent Cup, and he's also a podium contender in the European Talent Cup against all of these fast international riders that will be future stars as well. So Fenton, it just shows you how good the British Talent Cup is.
Definitely. And British Talent Cup anyway is almost a bit like an almost international version of Cool Fab Racing, because I would say probably 3/4 of the BTC grid is made up of existing or very recent Cool Fab Racing British Mini Bikes Championship riders, of which we will get on to talk about a bit later, with your review from last weekend, with last weekend's commentator, yourself and Dan Marr. We'll get on to talk a bit about that later on. But yeah, any comments relating to the CEV, any junior championships? If you know of anybody who's looking particularly good, anyone that we need to keep our eye on for future stardom, let's say, if you're tipping anyone in particular and you're not directly related to them, I suppose you could be, but it would just make it less biased if you was to say, hey, keep an eye on that kid over there, he's going to do some great things. Then let us know, because we always want to know who's going to be making it big in the future, as well as this weekend, for example. So that's definitely something to keep an eye out for. Also, as well, going back to this country and the BSB, the Superbikes Challenge game returns, and you may have heard about this. You may already know, you may already be signed up, you may already be a regular player of it. But if you don't know anything about it, well, I will tell you that you could win some really, really, really amazing, brilliant, fantastic prizes as part of the Superbikes Challenge game. What is it, Liam? Good question. It's a predictions game, and it's absolutely free to play. Head to superbikeschallenge.uk. I think it's .co.uk. You can Google it anyway. There's only one Superbikes Challenge game, and sign up, totally free to play, and they don't do any funny business with your data or anything like that. It's very important that you know that, and you just basically predict the top 5 from every BSB race, and the person who gets the most points from the weekend wins a really, really cool prize, all the way down to 5th place, and it could be anything from VIP hospitality tickets, it could be team merchandise. That's always a good popular one. A crate of beer as well is up for grabs. For the most up-to-date and latest stuff, which is available to win, go to the website, check it out, and register. You don't even have to go on the website as well. There's a fantastic app as well. Oh, there's two. There's one in the Android and the Apple's app as well. So you can download either of those depending on what device you've got. And basically, play along. And each week we will be updating everybody as to how people did the previous event. So we'll be keeping you up to date on that, and we'll also put our predictions in as well before the weekend and refer back to it and see just how badly Liam actually did.
That's always me that does badly.
For now, until you start doing good, and then we'll blame Ed or something. I
think I got my championship leader prediction right from the first round. I think
okay.
Taz McKenzie.
No, he's not the championship leader.
No, he's not.
It's Josh Elliott. He's second, even though they're in the same points. But Josh Elliott, technically.
Do they not do the pole position countback?
No.
Oh.
It's whoever wins the first race.
I didn't get it right then.
There you go. See,
Well, that told me.
exactly. So anyway, we will get onto points and stuff in BSB, but very important that you go and play because it's free and you could win some amazing stuff and even get formal recognition on the Superbike show on Motorsport Radio. And how cool would that be?
That's as cool as Killfab.
That's which is both cool. Anyway, so yes, this is the Superbike show. It is Motorsport Radio. My name is Lester. Hello and welcome. If you've just tuned in for the first time ever and you're wondering what the hell is going on, then we do this usually every single Thursday unless we're out busy doing Cool Fab on a Thursday, for example. And we will talk about BSB next, a full preview of this weekend's Alton Park round, bank holiday weekend as well, which I forgot all about because, I forget about bank holidays. But yeah, we'll be telling you who's looking good, where to put your money, and everything else. Everything that you need to know about BSB at Alton Park is next.
The Superbike Show on Motorsport Radio.
Hey everyone, Bradley Smith.
Hi guys, I'm Danny Buchan.
Hi, I'm Tom Sykes.
This is Motorsport Radio.
Liam likes Little Mix.
Oh, is that who that is?
Yep, that is what that is. It's official. You heard it here first.
Fair enough.
So, the Superbike show this weekend will go to, or BSB rather, will go to, we might even go, I don't know, it's going to be a fantastic weekend. Do you remember last year? Was you there? It was, I think, the hottest BSB weekend on record. And, I was there. I got heat stroke, I think, because I'm very pale. But and Kiko was also there as well at the time. And he also got heat stroke, but denied it. Anyway,
there were plenty of hot weekends at BSB last year with all the heat wave throughout the summer.
There was.
There were quite a few very good lobster lookalikes at Cadwell Park last summer. That's all I'm going to say. It's people do take sun cream.
Exactly, yeah. Take some sun cream next time.
You get one hot day and the Brits are out just like, burn me now, please.
You could even see the smoke coming up the top of the head. It was both tragic and wonderful at the same time.
And don't forget, guys, as well, do remember to dress appropriately for the body that you have, not rather the body that you would like to have. Just like to say that.
That means everyone just be wearing... that means everyone just be in shorts. So that...
Anyway,
they won't listen.
So BSB this weekend, Alton Park, and it's the first of two visits, Ed, to Alton Park for BSB this season.
It is, and the first May bank holiday round. It's traditionally the first visit to Alton Park of the season. Now, just before we go any further, let's go over the race times. If you're planning on setting your TV to record the race, if you're going to be out or if you're going to the circuit, race day is Monday this year, the bank holiday Monday. It's the only time this season that the races on a bank holiday go on the Monday. So Monday is the race day. There's just two BSB races, so your main day is on the Monday if you're going to the races. But of course, the full weekend practice is on Saturday and then qualifying throughout Sunday. Okie dokie, all eyes are going to be on Tara McKenzie and Josh Elliott after their maiden Superbike wins last time out at Silverstone. Josh Elliott, who of course inherited his first win, although it should be said he would have deserved it on merit anyways. He rode an outstanding race for the OMG Suzuki team. In race one, of course, that win was taken away from Taz McKenzie, but he redeemed himself in race two by dominating the field in the latter half of the race, really. There's nothing a bit of motivation like seeing Danny Buchan right behind and thinking, I better get out of here. And off he went, reeling off fastest lap after fastest lap. And no one could catch him on the Mackem High in race two. Both are determined to claim more wins this weekend and really stamp their authority as the new force in BSB. And they looked pretty good in the test last week that happened over at Alton Park itself. Neither topped the timesheets in any of the sessions, but they were always there or thereabouts.
Who's that at this time?
That's not Alexa again, is it?
I don't know. Is it maybe Alexa? I don't know. Rudely interrupted, Ed. That's what you are. Cut down in your prime, I tell you.
It's your takeaway.
Yeah, it might be thingy Scott Redding on the phone. That's what it might be.
I can't hear him.
We can't hear you anymore.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, there you go.
Am I back?
Sorry about that. Don't know why I'm apologising.
Technical glitches. Yes,
I know we heard it.
It came from my end. It's make of that what you will. So yes, Taz McKenzie and Josh Elliott, they look to be stamping their mark on BSB this season, and they look very good in the test going through. Although Taz McKenzie, he didn't quite look as good as his teammate at the test, Jason O'Halloran, who, along with his fellow countryman Australian Josh Brooks, those two are looking for redemption this weekend after good fortune cruelly deserted them, it has to be said, at Silverstone. So O'Halloran, we all know what happened at the end of race one, where he was knocked off his bike, tussling with his teammate for the win after leading for pretty much the entirety of that race. And as a legacy to that crash, he was plagued by technical troubles midway through the second race at Silverstone, and so he had 2 DNFs to his name. As did Brooks. He had engine trouble all throughout race day. It was almost like one of the old Ducatis from the early 90s in BSB that turned up with unreliable engine troubles. However, Brooks was quick to stress that they were very quick, easy to fix problems, Silverstone, and he would bounce back for this round. And if testing is anything to go by, he is on course to do just that this weekend. He was comfortably quicker than anybody else around the circuit throughout the whole of a test day, the Thursday, and he certainly looks that he's going to be flying the flag for Albert's Be Wiser Ducati team at this round. Now, we'll come on to his teammate in due course. There's the other of the factory, I suppose you call them factory supported, or the big teams in BSB, the build-based Suzuki team. Brad Ray, their lead rider, is looking to bounce back after he had a very difficult opening weekend. He took a tumble in Friday practice, which actually wiped out a lot of his track time heading into qualifying. It compromised the whole weekend in that they were simply scrabbling around trying to just secure points finishes to make anything from the weekend. But they managed it in the second race weekend to give them something to look forward to at Alton Park. Now, they've got a good package, the build-based Suzuki team, so Brad Ray will take a lot of confidence out of that, especially from his teammate, Luke Stapleford, who's come across this year after a couple of very difficult years in World Supersport. For one reason or another, he just couldn't establish himself in that field.
Well, he's done all right so far in BSB, hasn't he?
He's taken like a duck to water in BSB. He 20 points off his first weekend at Silverstone, that track where the national circuit, where I don't believe he had any previous racing experience on at that national circuit. So that shows he's in good form and the bike is competitive. And both he and Ray look very comfortably placed at the Alton Park test last week, so they look set to be challenging for podiums, is what the team expect for this weekend. They haven't said one rider or another. They're obviously hoping both could even crack the podium this way. And Alton Park, it tends to suit the Suzuki quite nicely, as there's a lot of fast-flowing corners, which the bike is extremely, the GSXR 1000R is an extremely well-balanced bike through the corners. If any of you with a full license get a chance to ride it, I do recommend you give it a go. Through the fast corners, it's absolutely planted. It's lacking a bit of top end down the straight, but the corners, Ray and Stapleford, their riding styles lend themselves to aggressive cornering speeds going through. So the build-based Suzuki team, we should see them up the sharp end of the field throughout the weekend.
What about Scott Redding and Bridewell? They've been speaking out lately.
Yes, neither rider, shall we say, are ever shy of voicing their opinions of things. Now, I am pretty much everybody that I spoke to, either at Silverstone or back here, whether they were connected to the paddock or not, they thought the racing was absolutely outstanding at Silverstone. It was some of the closest hard-fought racing you could ever wish to see. Well, Redding and Bridewell had well, they disagreed a little bit. Bridewell, he described it as there were some serious lunatics out there. I knew people would be eager, but some of the moves were stupid. And he went on to say he was amazed they didn't get a meeting. The riders weren't called to a meeting by race direction to basically tell everyone to calm down. Scott Redding, he said stuff on similar lines after the race. He said, I'm not going to cry about it, but there was a lot of stupidity out there. People were just smashing each other off. I knew I'd have a big target on my back coming from MotoGP. I have to stay away from trouble, not fun. So...
they didn't manage it, did they? They didn't exactly stay away from trouble.
Redding, well, in the first race he did, because he ended up with a podium. Okay, 4th place if, Mackenzie and O'Halloran had both seen it to the finish. Out there, 4th place for your first ever BSB race is a pretty good return. Yes, he got caught up in a bit of midfield shenanigans on the opening lap of race 2, but as far as I'm aware, shenanigans lap 1 midfield happens in pretty much every race class there is in motorbike. So,
did we find out exactly what the reason, like who? Because I was watching on the Eurosport on demand player.
Yeah, when Redding did get taken out down in between Brooklands and Luffield race 2, it was Andrew Irwin, I think, on the Honda.
Right.
That they both ran in hot. To be fair, I think Irwin was following Redding. Redding outbraked himself a bit too late, and as so often happens when a rider's in slipstream behind, they tend to follow the rider in front. So Irwin, as a result, ran in deep. Redding, obviously, as he was the bike front, pulled his bike up first, but of course, Glenn Irwin then arrived, and so the two made contact. That way, it was a racing incident. They both outbraked themselves. If they both made the braking mark correctly, nothing would have happened. It's early season nerves. You could put it down to that if there were collisions. I don't think anything was actually malicious at all in
racing
any
incident.
Yeah, racing incidents, nerves since it was the first round of the season. But then Redding commands a lot of the attention for BSB this year. He's obviously brought a lot of a new crowd through the gates or from the opening round, and they're set to follow him around most of the season. And he's got just. I suppose you could say he's almost playing the media in a way and drumming this up to be a very serious. I think Redding wasn't expecting BSB to be so competitive as it was, because we know how MotoGP, how it always brands itself as the fastest riders in that series. And to an extent, it may well be true. They've certainly got the fastest bikes in the world, but it's fierce racing in BSB. It is close quarters. I think Fred Clark described it, the circuit commentator at BSB, he described it a lot as it's Moto3 riders, but on superbikes. It's elbows out, anything goes, provided you don't knock riders off. Race direction are very happy to, let it really go hand to hand, muscle to muscle racing. Redding, he'll just, he's got, Redding's a big lad. He's got long elbows. He'll get them out, and I'm pretty certain, we'll see him as one of people fighting properly at the front this weekend. So he's got the bike to do it. He's got a very fast teammate to spur him on. So, and yeah, I think it took him to explain those comments. I think the competitiveness and the ferocity of the racing took Redding by surprise, because it is a bit more clinical in the Grand Prix paddock.
I think he mentioned...
I say more no holds barred in BSB.
Yeah, I think Redding, I think before the weekend, actually made a comment about he feels more at home in the BSB paddock because there aren't so many, he feels, there's not so many people who are only interested in looking pretty or looking good, for example.
Yeah, I suppose the MotoGP paddock can be quite cold. And
was that a dig at Andrea Iannone by any chance?
Probably, yes, definitely. But nothing wrong with a couple of plastic surgeries. I mean, it's anyway. Yeah. So Scott Redding, it did okay. I think not as well as a lot of people tipped him to be.
To do. I mean, had he not have been taken out, be fair, it wasn't a he didn't crash out entirely due to a mistake he made. He got fourth on the road in race one, which was then elevated to a podium.
That was luck, though, really, that podium.
Well, in the sense that it took to be disqualified or relegated from the... relegated, sorry.
Didn't he move up to third after O'Halloran was knocked off by Mackenzie, but kept third because Taz was knocked down in second? Sorry,
yes, I tripped over myself. That's exactly what I meant to say.
I was making a mistake until I remembered about it just a split second before.
Yes, so it's although whilst he wasn't in contention to win that race, he certainly, his result in race one was certainly there on merit. He delivered the goods, and nothing else. He kept that Ducati going, whereas his teammate hadn't. So it was unfortunate in race two. And I think he was caught up by the ferocity of the opening lap shenanigans in race two, which led to the comments. But he'll bounce back. He'll grit his teeth. We've seen Scott Redding produce some fierce moves in the Grand Prix paddock. So it's nothing really that he hasn't seen before. He'll bounce back, I think.
And graduate, of course, of the Cool Fab Racing paddock is Mr. Scott Redding.
Yeah, funny you should say that, because I saw a picture Scott posted about a week ago, and it was Scott Redding on a MetroKit bike from, I think, 2003 on a Monster Mob Ducati. Well, not Monster Mob Ducati, but a Monster Mob sponsored bike, which looked like Shaky Burns' bike from 2003. I thought, that is a cool piece of history right there. But yeah, come back to Scott Redding and the BSB. I just think people expected him to come in and just wipe the floor with everyone coming from MotoGP. But you've got to remember, Scott Redding has not, I know I keep banging on about this, but it hasn't raced on these tracks for, well over 10 years now. Because he raced in Spain when he was younger, before he came over to the Grand Prix paddock when he was 15. So the likes of Alton, Cadwell, Knockhill, even Silverstone National will be completely alien to him at the moment, because even though he's used to these big, wide, smooth circuits, and then you come over to the British circuits, which are completely different to what he's ridden on before, a bit more narrow, a bit more undulating, lots of bumps, lots of character as well. And it might take him a bit of time to just get his head around that, and I don't think it'll take him too long. I think he'll be up to speed very quickly. But also the way that BSB riders race is a bit more frantic than what he's used to in the MotoGP class, because you really are fighting for everything. You've got to remember, these riders aren't multi-million pound racers. Most of them have got to scramble money together before the start of the season, so they are literally fighting tooth and nail for everything they can possibly get to impress another team, to bring in more sponsors, to give themselves a shot again within the top 6 of the championship. So you see someone like Scott Redding come to BSB from MotoGP, and you think, wow, if I can beat him, then this could get my name noticed.
Good point.
So
absolutely, yeah. It's how the MotoGP commentators, they often talk about a rider who's fighting for his career. Usually in the second half of the season. Well, these boys in BSB are fighting for that on a round-by-round basis, a lot of them, and certainly every single season. They can't afford a bad year or a bad half season compared to their Grand Prix brothers, as it were, because they're not in a multi-million pound paddock. It is entirely results driven, their performances, so it lends itself therefore to the ferocity in the racing, which ultimately I think makes an absolutely unbeatable spectacle.
Yeah, absolutely does. I completely agree, and it just gives that racing a bit more of, I don't know how to put it, but it just gives it a bit more natural feel to it, if that makes any sense. Now, MotoGP, they can sit back and just take a result, while in BSB, you've just got to go all out and pick up what you can. And as Ed was saying, it just makes the racing a little bit more enjoyable to watch.
Definitely, I suppose, yeah. Let us know who you are rooting for this weekend at Alton Park, who you are cheering on if you have any friends or family going, and maybe you're not going, how will you be consuming the BSB this weekend? Will you be watching it live on TV? Will you be listening to the BSB radio online, maybe? Or if you're busy working, maybe, I don't know, you're going to try and catch some of the on-demand coverage that Eurosport purport to offer.
We know, Lester, you really want to say more about Eurosports On Demand.
Oh, well, since you mentioned it, Liam.
What have I done?
I've just seen the notes now you put in the show plan.
There is a little thing that Eurosport offer, and I believe it used to be very good. It's called their Eurosport Player. And to stream live whatever they're streaming at the moment and play, very good, usually reliable. I've never had a problem with it. Until you get to their on-demand player. Now, I put the emphasis on the word on demand, i.e. when you want to watch it. And Eurosport have been a little bit dodgy about offering things on demand. A couple of weeks ago, I tried to go back and find, because I couldn't watch it live, hence why people watch on demand stuff. Trying to watch I think it was the second round of the World Superbike Championship, and it wasn't online anywhere on their on-demand player. I thought, that's inconvenient, but whatever, I'll carry on, I'll live. And then we get to BSB at Silverstone, because I wasn't able to watch the coverage live because we were busy doing other things. I was out for most of that weekend, so really the first chance I had to catch up with it was midweek, and I went to their on-demand player, tried to find it under their Superbikes category. And
what did you find, Lester?
I didn't find any BSB from Silverstone, I'll tell you that. Well, actually, I did. I found some of their live previews, their live paddock walkabouts with Matt Roberts, I think during free practice, and Greg Haynes during FP3 or something. Yeah, not the bits I'd tuned in to watch anyway. What I'd actually found, first of all, is that they'd actually filed the races under MotoGP and put a Valentino Rossi thumbnail on it. So, so there I am scrolling completely past it, thinking, well, that's MotoGP, and then it took me a good 10 minutes to realise, hang on a minute, they don't have Moto. Hang on. Okay, I found it now. Here we go. Idiots. So anyway, managed to watch it, except I couldn't, because the whole of the entire weekend broadcast was plagued by technical problems, and they didn't even have BSB Race 1 on their on-demand player because it kept going offline, and they kept getting like a test card of like technical issues. So thank you, Eurosport. Thank you for ruining BSB.
Well, I get your point completely, Lester, but I just think to the people that have spent all that money for an on-demand. Well, yeah, you spent 20 quid, but I believe Ed has spent 40 because you got it on the deal, and I'm quite glad now I actually didn't fork out the money to get the on-demand, because hearing you struggling with this whole on-demand issue...
It was an ordeal. I have screenshots of literally... I mean, I had to go back and refer to the actual Silverstone timetable just to see had I missed something. I clicked play on the Sunday thing, which was I think about 3.5 hours long, and it started just after the Tri-Options race, which I think, according to the timetable in my head, was after BSB Race 1.
BSB Race 1.
So they'd missed BSB Race 1 completely.
I mean, it sounds like, according to them, the Tri-Option is...
that could though be explained by, because I believe Sunday Race Day was also jointly shown on Quest, because there was other sporting events that Eurosport were having to show on the main channels as well.
Still,
so
I mean, how difficult would it be for them to record it and put it on their on-demand player?
Can they actually take what, even if it's a program under their banner, if they've put it on Quest, can they then put it on their own?
Well, they own Quest.
Yeah, Yeah, Eurosport is owned by Discovery, which also owns Quest. So I thought Eurosport was the main channel and Quest was the sort of secondary channel.
Yeah, it's like a satellite. Well, literally is a satellite channel.
So
for the Discovery group of programs, channels and stuff. So yeah, I find it astonishing that even though they put, I mean, this is a kind of a worrying thing. Yes, it's good, I suppose, for the people who don't have a Sky subscription. You can still watch the odd race on Quest. But if you've purposefully not got a Sky subscription because you wanted to get the Eurosport Player subscription, like I did, then you're kind of screwed. For races that they've put on Quest, they first of all file it under cricket or snooker or whatever, somewhere where you can't even find it, or like
Seriously?
archery or basketball or whatever, and then they confuse you further by putting on the race after the main race that you wanted to actually watch. So I never actually watched BSB Race 1 and that event and the incident. So I never actually got to see it. I saw highlights of it on social media, for God's sake. So thank you, Eurosport. Thank you.
You might be able to find Race 1 highlights on the ITV player because they did show highlights on ITV4 midweek. Whether it'd still be on there, I don't know, but it could always look there.
I thank
don't
you.
think that's the point of
Trying to
Leicester's
save
argument.
Leicester's sanity here.
Thank you, but yeah, I mean, ITV Player, as good a job as they do, yay! It is free, yes, it's good. I've not actually checked, to be fair. That's because I chose for my premium service, which I paid my money for. I paid a little bit of money. Yes, it was during the discount when they had £20 special offer.
Maybe that's why you're having these issues, because you weren't prepared to pay the full price you paid for the on demand during the deal, and they go, you know what? You can just discard him. He's all right. He's paid £20, not the full 40, the full juicy stuff. So we'll give that to everyone who paid the full 40, and the people who paid the 20 can just sort of get the sort of the hand-me-down service.
I think it's more a case of the fact that there's extreme incompetence going on over there in the Europes.
I want to say Liam's onto something here because I've not had any problems with the site.
There we go.
So if you go onto that on demand,
that's a Eurosport know me, and they're secretly giving me the most amazing service.
I promise you, right after you've finished listening to the Superbike show exclusively on Motorsport Radio, where you can go back and listen to many years worth of live shows, all categorised in order and easily available to find. After you've done that, head to the Eurosport on demand, the player on demand. You want to look under motorcycling or bike coverage, not in Superbikes where it usually is, where all the previous seasons coverage is usually filed. And then you want to go to the Sunday coverage and then press play, and I promise you it starts just after the Tri-Options Cup race, and then is plagued by technical problems throughout. Promise you.
In Eurosport's defence on something they've done very well, and I'll give them credit on this, is that if you have a games console, you can watch Eurosport on demand. Now, looking at you,
great.
BT
So
Sport, you need that as well.
You can be pissed off whilst watching an Xbox as well. So that'll be
yeah. If you don't have a computer, Ethan, but you have a games console, you're sorted.
So well done, Eurosport. Well done. I mean, it's to be okay. I mean, I don't want to criticise them too much. I mean, motorsport media are content creators and broadcasters, and we have occasionally suffered from technical problems. We can understand definitely how it happens, because apparently sometimes it does happen during this show as well. It's not happened for a while.
Oh, there we go.
I can't think of any technical gremlins that's happened on this show.
But still,
we've been on it.
For a company the size and with the resources of what Eurosport have, it's let's just say they had a right nightmare. Because I don't know what their issues was, but it definitely wasn't a good weekend for them.
It was the first weekend of the year. They were a little bit stressed. It happens. We'll give them the benefit of the doubt.
Genuine possibility is the editors all got sunstroke.
Yeah, or maybe they were just off that weekend. Maybe they were enjoying the racing so much that they just passed out.
Something was off. I'll tell you that. But I mean, if we can stream live exclusive radio coverage and in future video coverage of the Road to MotoGP Cool Fab Racing British Minibikes Championship, at least Eurosport can put in a good shift and stream the BSB races, at least.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't have an opinion on this because I don't have the on-demand. I just tend to go to something else and watch it on that. Now, don't get me wrong, I do like when everything's working. Nobody usually compliments them because that they're doing a good job, so it's usually the thing that's on and it's expected to work, except it didn't exactly this weekend for the people. But like everything really, if you're doing a good job, no one really says anything, but when you slip up, that's when you get everyone coming crashing down on you.
Exactly. So I don't want to be too hard on them right now, but it is the second rant that I've had to have about them in as many weeks. Cy Boyle has been on. Hello, good evening, Simon. He says, good news, ITV Player has Superbikes. World Superbikes, the Aragon and Assen rounds, no BSB. Thank you, Cy. That's great.
Well, at least you could go back and watch the World Superbikes.
Yeah, but it's past now. I mean, once it's gone, I mean, yeah. Ideally, in an ideal world, I think we'd all watch it live, but we don't all live ideal lives because some people have to work and some people have to do things with wives and kids and family and yada yada. So some people either choose to record it on their Sky Q or Sky Box or whatever, or some people, unlucky folk, have to put up with their on-demand player, which is, I'm told, usually very good. Hey,
or if you have parents that pay for Sky, they can just watch it like that on demand. That's what I do.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's always the best trick.
Anyway, shall we move on? If you've experienced similar problems, and just let me know. If nothing else, just to reassure me that I'm not actually going crazy. Because if you did try and watch the coverage back, it was a little patchy. However, I did manage to watch a lot of most of, I think, the Stock 1000 and most of the, I think, about a full race of Supersport, I think. Not much of British Talent Cup. But hey-ho. Yes, which leads us on nicely, by the way, to some of the support categories as well. And we'll get on to talking about some road racing shortly, in just a short while. I.e. shortly. The support categories, Ed. In Supersport, as I was mentioning, one of the things I did manage to see was another titanic battle renewed from last year between Alistair Seeley and Jack Kennedy.
Yes, they were at it again, not once but twice at Silverstone, both in the feature race and in the sprint race. The two of them, they just basically cleared off from the rest of the field and they have their own little war for the two races, and that seems to be the way this season's going to go in the Supersport class. Kennedy, of course, is the young and up-and-coming rider. I think he hails from Australia, doesn't he? Originally, Jack Kennedy, or did I get that wrong somewhere? Anyway, he's the young up-and-coming rider, trying to steal the Supersport crown from Alistair Seeley's head, who is basically one of the masters of the 600cc class throughout his career, the 39-year-old from Northern Ireland. Kennedy beat Seeley twice over the weekend, and they're going to, if you're going to Alton Park, you are in for an absolute treat when the Supersport class hits the tarmac this weekend. The two of them, they are poised, ready to go again. We don't want to sound disrespectful to the rest of the field, but those two are in a different league to everyone else in that class at the moment.
Well, I mean, Brad Jones did join them in, I think, race one. I think he was almost involved in that in the dogfight.
What I'm trying to get is Kennedy and Seeley, certainly the form that they're in at the moment, and certainly from last year as well, that they've carried on into this, is that when they need to turn in that incredibly fast couple of laps, 2 or 3 laps to pull a gap from the field, they can do it. So you always get the sense when you're watching them, even when they've got a train of riders behind you, think any moment now, Jack or Seeley, they're going to pull the pin, and then it's just going to be those two that are left.
How have they not had like a massive big fallout? How has it not ended up in tears yet?
I think, as in, have they not crashed?
I mean, it's probably because they're great riders, aren't they?
Great riders. They've got clearly very good mutual respect for each other as well. There's no real need to try and take each other out in the sense they have no bitter rivalry that you often get with two riders who are at the same point in their careers as each other. Because with the greatest respect to Alistair Seeley, and he is a fabulous rider, he's 39. Kennedy is in his very early 20s, I think.
21, 22 or something?
Yeah, so they're at complete opposite ends of their career spectrums. It's Seeley, Kennedy has got this drive to win every race to prove that he's ready to make the next step up and go on to bigger and better things. Alistair Seeley, very much, if he wins, he's very happy. He's just getting the buzz out of still racing at the sharp end of a competition. So put the two together, we're getting some fantastic battles on track. So those two are the ones, really to watch in Super Sport. Lee Johnson, actually, we should give a shout out because he's made his full-time return to the Super Sport class for the first time since 2011. The road race ace who's decided basically what Dean Harrison's done with British Superbikes. He's decided to do a full season in Super Sport, basically to make sure he's as sharp as he possibly can be for the international road races. And he picked up a pair of fourth place finishes, I believe, at the weekend. So a very solid return to the class after several years out. So that bodes well for him heading up into round two. Excuse me. The Superstock 1000 class.
Oh, yeah.
The big stepping ground for the Superbikes, where riders, usually their final stepping stone is it before they make it to BSB. Well, it was really three former BSB men were stealing a lot of headlines. Taylor Mackenzie, Richard Cooper and Lee Jackson were three out of the four, which always seem to be in a class of their own. The other fourth, who I don't believe has BSB experience yet, Alex Olsen, him and Taylor Mackenzie were on BMW machinery. Richard Cooper and Lee Jackson, I believe Lee Jackson was on Suzuki machinery. No, he was on Kawasaki FS3. So he's on the FS3 team's books. Richard Cooper, of course, is with Bill-based Suzuki out there. The decision behind Cooper being in the super stock class this year is because that bike is going to be closer spec even to the Superbike class when it comes to the international road races, particularly the Northwest 200, where he is one of several BSB riders that'll be taking part in the Northwest 200 in a couple of weeks' time out there. So Cooper won the long endurance style race. It's the pit stop race that they have. If you're unfamiliar with it, it's basically I believe it's a 50-mile race, but it's split over two 25-mile legs. So Silverstone, that was two 24-lap races where they all have a mandatory service stop in the middle. They don't like to call it a pit stop. So after 24 laps, the checker flag is waved, all the times are taken, and then riders go in, they refuel, change tyres, minor repairs can be made to the bikes and whatnot. Then they go out, do the other 24 laps, and the times are aggregated for the end. So the winner isn't necessarily the first one to take the checkered flag at the end of the race. So Richard Cooper won that race, and then there was a ferocious sprint race on the Sunday between the four riders that I've mentioned. And it seems that those four are Cooper, Mackenzie, Olsen and Jackson. They are the real ones to watch in the Superstock 1000 class, because all of them, they want to be in the BSB for next year. They don't want to be in the Stock 1000 class any longer than they have to. They're going to fight each other to make sure that they can get into the Superbike class for next year, if not before then. So that's Superstock 1000. Now, I was going to talk about Junior Supersport and then realised just before we came on air that Junior Supersport are not racing this weekend because Motorstar is back. This is Yes, keep up everyone. Here we go. We have British Talent Cup, we have Junior Supersport, and the Moto Star series, which is still there, and they all seem to be alternating as to which rounds they go to throughout the season.
Well, most of the people in Moto Star are also, dare I say, also in Talent Cup and the other things as well.
They all overlap to the sense where Junior Supersport, about half of them do Moto Star at the rounds where they're not doing Junior Supersport, and the other half tend to go off into Stock 600s out there. The really Super Stock 600s, which is still affectionately known by people in the paddock as Junior Suicide, because young riders desperate to make a name for themselves creates some spectacularly over-ambitious overtaking manoeuvres, and it's just tremendous racing to watch. It's a who's who of future race winners and champions of the top classes, not just in domestic racing, but potentially around the world as well. So from Junior Supersports from Silverstone, and they'll be, as mentioned, in Motor Star this weekend or 600. The Cade and Luc Vivet brothers, they seem to be ones to really watch.
Oh yeah.
This Cade, he finished on the podium twice in the Junior Supersport races. They're both on Kawasaki machinery this year, so the Ninja 400 and Junior Supersports. What stood out, I was watching their race, the same with the Stock 600 on Sunday, actually down at the Silverstone 6, so you could see them as they came across Maggots and then through Beckett's before going on to the Wellington Straight out there. Vivet and a Stock 600 rider called Storm Stacey, who's part of the WD-40 brand team umbrella as well, but they're known as, the junior teams are known as Team 109 Kawasaki out there. Well, those two that I mentioned, they are not lacking in any bravery when they come into those fast, long, sweeping corners. More than capable of leaving braking to the very last second, squaring the bikes off, and even on the little bikes, leaving huge black lines on the tarmac as they power out late apex through the exit corners, and they were making up so much time in so many places. It was for two lads at such a young age. I think Storm Stacey is 16 years old, and I don't think KVOA is much older than that. I think he's around 17 or 18. It's these two very young lads pushing for all they're worth to get. They're on their way to the top. Those two early on. And
yeah, a lot of people already know about or know of or has heard of Storm Stacey anyway.
Yeah, I was just thinking, how long has Storm Stacey been about for when he's only 16? I feel like he's been around for about 10 years.
Talking about a while, he's known wonderfully as the young rock star of the paddock. He's laid back, he's always got a smile on his face, usually terrorising the main roads of the paddock on a scooter or on a mountain bike during his downtime between races. He's a great kid.
And he's lightningly quick.
He's super fast. He's in a good team. He's, the WD-40 team in every class, they seem to be a team on the rise at the moment. And he's really well bedded in that team. He looks like he's got a path that's set straight up. Maybe, obviously, it's still in his very young days, but it's not unrealistic to think that, in 3 or 4 years' time, he could be lining up on the WD-40 Kawasaki in BSB. He's got so much potential, so much talent, and he's not the only one. I know I've talked about that there are so many riders in the junior class as well. If you're watching on TV, particularly if you're at the circuit, I would say pay close attention this week to the Stock 600 class and the Motor Stars, because these boys and girls that are out there racing, racing their hearts out, desperate to try and secure bigger and better rides in the future. Yeah, they really are the ones to watch, as far as I can see. It's 2 brilliant series of racing.
Well, Cy Boyle has been back on, Ed, and he asks all of us, but I'll put it to I'll ask a question for you, Liam, because I don't think he asked anyone specifically. Sai says, what's your view on the growth of GP2 in the Super Sport class? Now, when this was coming in, there was a lot of people grumbling and moaning about it, etc., including some of the riders. There was 8 bikes at Silverstone, he says, is more than last year, but still low. How long before it's big enough to stand on its own regarding GP2?
I remember a few years ago where they were talking about bringing it in, and it will eventually phase out the Super Sport class.
That's the idea of it, yeah.
Yeah, that's the idea. I was actually quite surprised at the weekend because you had Kyle Ryde on the Moto2 bike, and Sam Wilford, I believe.
Kyle Ryde finished 3rd in race 2, I think.
Yeah, so he was leading the race, and they were surprised that the Moto2s were up there and battling with the Super Sport classes close as they were in race 2. Unfortunately, I didn't get to watch the whole race because I had to go off to work. So the best I caught, the Kyle Ryde was putting in a great performance over Jack Kennedy and Alistair Seeley and the rest. So it looks like the Moto2s are getting more competitive because if you look back to last year, they were down the bottom end of the top 15. And yeah, you had only 4 of them in there, so there wasn't a great representation of how well they could have done. Personally, it's such a shame if the Super Sport class do get phased out because it's been a class that has been breeding great racing, great talent throughout the years. Also, the 600s are fantastic bikes, some of the best bikes that have ever been made. I just don't feel like the manufacturers invest in it as heavily as they do. They used to. I know they're bringing out bikes still, kind of, but it's just not something that we've been hearing that quite a lot in the World Superbike scene, where the Super Sport class is potentially getting phased out, and it looks like it'll happen for BSB one day, and we've got the series already taking that on board and already trying to find a way to replace that, which is going to be the Moto2. And the great thing is, if Moto2 does replace the Super Sports, is that fingers crossed they can maybe find an affordable way to get British riders into Moto2, and also there'll be lots of wildcards, which means more British riders can come through the series and possibly make it into that side of the World Championship, because we know Brits are amazing on production-based bikes. We just don't have a pedigree on prototype-based bikes anymore. So this is something that can potentially help that in the future.
Yeah. Does that answer your question, Si? Maybe.
I feel like I beat around the bush quite a lot and maybe not got to the core of the question.
So I'd say also it's cost of running the Moto2 bikes, because as they're prototype bikes, they're not cheap. They're not as cheap as, or affordable, we should say, rather than cheap, as a production 600cc bike. That said, of course, the value of the old Spec Moto2 Hondas, which are eligible for the GP2 Cup, they'll obviously be falling down in costs over the next couple of years as, Triumph have the new Moto2 bikes each year that are produced. So the old Honda machines will hopefully start to come over in more numbers. It's a difficult one, because I'm part of the opinion that I don't want to see the Super Sport class go, and that will ultimately be dictated by the production sales side of things. So things dictated away from a racetrack that will go through. Because at the moment you've got Yamaha, Kawasaki as your most affordable options and most competitive options, and especially if we look at World Super Sports, the alternatives are very long in the tooth. Honda CBR 600 which I think the last model of those was made back in 2013, 2014, a while ago, and the aging MV Agusta F3. So it's which is a triple cylinder, not as reliable, and being Italian, it's a lot more expensive. So, you're down to just basically 2 makes, and it is a sad reflection of where the production intermediate class is in terms of the type of bikes they can put on display. So obviously there was a need to bring the Moto2, GP2 Cup bikes, whatever you want to call them, into the Super Sport class to bolster the numbers, as it were. There's obviously it's going to be a keen push to get more Moto2 bikes on the grid, because ultimately, if you can send more top British riders into the World Championship class with experience on those bikes, it makes BSB series look even better than it already does, because it's a proper breeding ground for world champions. And also, from I suppose a patriotic point of view, seeing all these great British riders go across into the World Championships to take on, the millions of Italian and Spanish riders in particular that are in the World Championship as well. So there are many reasons for having the prototype series in there alongside the Supersport I class. Yeah, I would be very sad if the Supersport class did disappear within the next 5 to 10 years. Hopefully it doesn't. Okay. Because, well, the Kawasaki, like I said, it comes back to the production bikes, what the manufacturers are making. So the new Kawasaki ZX 636R, which is their new model, which is being raced in BSB this year by a handful of teams. They've had to down-tune the engine to it similar to the old reps, because it still hasn't officially been homologated by the FIM, so which is why you're not seeing it in World Super Sports until next year. That will hopefully force Yamaha and hopefully Honda and Suzuki and the other big manufacturers to update or produce new bikes, and ultimately, hopefully, you'd like to see 5 or 6 different manufacturers producing 600cc Supersport machines, and suddenly the class is looking very healthy again.
Well, Cy Boyle's been back on. Hello again, Cy, who says he wouldn't mind the 600 going if it meant an easier graduation to Moto 2. He says he wouldn't want it to go and there be no serious graduation to the world stage. Good point, I think. Just quickly going back to something that I was mentioning a short while ago. I was actually able to find proof of what I was just mentioning a moment ago, which is the Eurosport player.
Oh, that's again.
Oh, come on.
And on that, no, because I just get the feeling that few people believe me, because Ed, you said it works fine for you, and then, well, this is clearly my version of it on their Superbike, dedicated Superbike thing that they've got. It's got 3 web previews that they had, which is basically just a pit walk with Matt Roberts, Greg Haynes, and the woman I forgot the name of.
Rachel Stringer.
Yeah, her. That's what those 3 are, basically. And when we did actually get to watch a thing, it said there was technical issues all over it.
Is that German below that?
Yeah, he went through it. It was just a video that played, and it was just all the technical issues. So that's basically, yeah.
I like it that they've given you a different language just in case that you're watching it.
Well, they are Eurosport, and I found the actual Silverstone racing under basically MotoGP with a picture of MotoGP bikes and not BSB bikes, which confused the hell out of me for a good 10-20 minutes.
The one next to it, does that say Le Mans?
Yes, because they usually put like that.
What year?
Well, that would have been the Le Mans 24 Hours, so the endurance racing.
Oh, right, okay. I thought you
a couple of weeks ago.
You might have had a version of the Le Mans when Eurosport used to have it, and I was like, oh, cracking, I'll just buy the on demand to watch some old MotoGP races.
Well, they did have the 24 hour of Le Mans bikes, and that was that. Yeah, basically. So BSB is now for some reason hidden in that little category. Basically, yeah, so, yeah. That's what I paid my money for. Confusion and annoying things and technical problems. Well done. Anyway. Right.
Well, when you pay 20 quid, you get what you paid for.
I would really like to say good things about Eurosport, because I know all the guys and girls that work there do amazing jobs on the ground, and it's probably even nothing to do with them. It's probably like, people back in France or whatever. Putting things under the wrong, things. People who don't know what they're doing. So I just thought I'd show you that anyway. Right, road racing news, because we are running out kind of short on time, and there has been a couple of bits of road racing news, especially today, I think we start off with the. I think Alistair Seeley came out, and there was two announcements about this. Ed, what?
Well, yes, we've known for a little while that Alistair Seeley will contest the main Northwest 200 Superbike races on board the Paul Bird Motorsport BYD Ducati, the V4R machine. The plan had also been to run in the super stock class with the same team, but they've been told
for the Northwest?
Yes, for the Northwest 200. But they've been told you can't do that this year because the Panigale V4R is a homologation race special. Now, basically, what that means in showroom terms is that you cannot buy this bike and then ride it home. You have to transport it to a racetrack because it's only racetrack legal. So how they've got around the loophole to make it super bike eligible is they produce, the required number of like 500.
So it's basically a prototype.
Well,
if it's
they
not,
will obviously say no, but effectively yes,
because if you're not
it's
able
all
to
been
ride it on the
derived
roads, then that's what it is.
Well, they would say it's not a prototype; it's a track bike. So, but essentially,
except
to
on the
all
Northwest
intents
200
and
track.
Well, because it's a road, yes.
God.
But that's the difference between Superbike and super stock bike. A super stock is one you can buy in the showroom, like the Ducati Panigale V4S, for example. You can buy that in the store and you can ride it home on the roads. You can take it to racetracks. That is a super stock bike. So it raises the question, could PBM Ducati do a late deal with their Ducati supplier and bring a V4S to the Northwest 200? Because that would certainly be eligible for it, as they've, it meets all the super stock criteria. We'll know in the coming few days what they're going to do.
Because it was just the way that it was announced. I think the Northwest 200. I saw this on Twitter. They came out and made the big announcement. Seeley's going to be racing, and I thought I'd read it wrong. When a couple of hours later, maybe 1 hour later, Alistair posted on his Facebook page, actually, I'm not going to be racing in the Superbike class. I'll just be watching, and I was sort of busy and not paying attention to it fully at the time, so I thought I read it wrong. So, yeah.
It's definitely the notes we've got down here say it's the super stock class, and that makes more sense because Superbike, that is what the V4R is. It is a super bike. It's eligible for World Supers, BSB, and so, well, if it's eligible for BSB, it's eligible for the road races. It's as simple as that. But yes, because you cannot ride it out of a showroom, it's not a stock bike. So they would have to, the V4 or the V4S, if they want the V4 route, that is their alternatives. If they choose to do that, they might not. They haven't run a stock version. In the previous couple of years, they've been there, of course, when they were with Glenn Irwin last couple of years. So it remains to be seen whether they will do that or maybe they'll just contest the Superbike class of the team. I believe Seeley is going to be contesting the Super Sport class as well with his team that he's with in the BSB Super Sport Championship. So
he said he'll be on 2 other machines or something.
Okay.
I think. I don't know. But
2 other machines. Okay.
Oliver's Mount, the Barry Sheen Classic. Tell us more about
yes. So on to good news, as we'll say, as opposed to questionable stuff. Barry Sheen Classic, which of course happening the last weekend in July. Race entries are now open, so anyone with a national race license, if you're thinking you want a road race to enter in the summer, get yourself over to the 243 Racing website, which is www.243racing.co.uk, and lodge your entry for the Barry Sheen Classic. It promises to be a superb event. There are 7 different classes, including sidecars, that are going to be racing around the Scarborough circuit. I can't wait. I love the sidecars. But yes, full regulations and entry forms can be found on the website. So go in and enter them. They advise, obviously, to get your entries in soon because due to the lack of space on the track, each class is limited to a maximum of 22 for the race day. They could allow for more for the practice qualifying sessions, but only the top 22 will race outmost in the class.
Book now to avoid disappointment, basically.
Absolutely, and it'd be great to see full grids in every class because it's going to be fantastic.
Definitely.
Out there, so many old two-stroke classic superbikes. It's probably going to be the event to go to. It's the event I'm most looking forward to actually this summer.
A lot of people,
without a doubt.
Since you put that article out last week or the week before, that got shared quite a lot.
Last week,
so didn't expect a lot of people already highly anticipating and planning their visits, planning their weekends there. Cookstown 100, latest on that.
Right, so the Irish road racing season got underway last weekend. The Cookstown 100, and it was rising Irish road race champion, superstar in the making, Derek McGee. He's picked up from where he left off last year, and he took a hat-trick of victories around the course. So a victory in the ultra lightweight, which is the Moto 3 125cc category, super twin class, and the big one, the main Superbike race that happened around that season. So McGee, hat-trick of rounds. He heads off and he will lead the field at the Tandragee 100 this weekend. They go through. So that's their second national road race of the season, and their last race before the big Northwest 200, the biggest race in Northern Ireland later in the month. If you're wondering when and where can I see the Cookstown 100 and Tandragee 100 on TV?
Where can I see it on TV, Ed?
Well, Lester and anyone else, there's been a late broadcasting deal that's been secured by the BBC. Ooh. And they're going to be showing highlights of both the Cookstown and Tandragee 100 events, starting from next Tuesday, so May the 7th. Tuesday night is the Cookstown 100 show. Get that right. And then the following Monday, so May the 13th, in the week leading up to the Northwest 200, there'll be highlights of the Tandragee 100.
Is this going to be on BBC Northern Ireland?
It's BBC One Northern Ireland. However, it will also be simulcast on the BBC iPlayer.
Oh, that's good.
So everyone in the British Isles will be able to catch the road racing.
Yes, good. And at least there won't be any problems like with what I have to put up with under Eurosport.
And let's not open that can of worms again.
BBC iPlayer for what little motorsport there is on there. Big thumbs up, I would say. Well done on that. Each programme's going to be about an hour in length, so not bad.
That's
pretty good.
Not bad at all. Now, if for anyone if you're watching who were there at the Cookstown 100 weekend, they might have noticed that there was one very big absentee from the proceedings. I'm not talking about Guy Martin. I'm talking about Michael Dunlop. He's normally been there for ever since he made his road racing debut. It's one of the staples on the Irish road racing calendar, but he wasn't there this year. Nothing has been announced from his party whether he'll be at this weekend's Tandragee 100, and there is a possibility that his national road racing days might indeed be done, or he's going to be very selective as to which ones he takes part in. It's back at the TT launch at the end of March on the Isle of Man. He did say that he was due to a lot of factors, not least, of course, the tragic death of his brother last year, William Dunlop, that it's becoming increasingly hard for him to justify to himself and to his family him doing all the road races. Totally
understandable.
Absolutely, it totally is, and he's, he has very little to prove, really. Although we all know what an incredibly good racer he is. He will be there at the Northwest 200 with the Tyco BMW team and the Isle of Man TT, the Ulster Grand Prix, the big major international meetings. He's definitely going to be there for all being well. It does raise the possibility that he could be looking to make a switch to short circuit racing.
Because didn't he try a little bit last year? Or
yes, he's done a few BSB rounds on and off in the past. Last year he did the Donington rounds, and indeed the year before he also did Donington as well. He was at the test at Alton Park last week with the BMW, with the Tyco BMW outfit as they get ready for the Northwest 200. And so he could well join the likes of Dean Harrison, Alice Tassini, Lee Johnston in becoming a big road racer who ends up joining the BSB circuit. And
As if
BSB,
you needed more reasons to go and watch BSB.
His riding style alone, which is no holds barred, balls to the wall riding. It's just he's cut out for BSB racing. I mean, I've no doubt if he was to do a full season, once he got himself up to speed with the ferocity of everyone basically racing like him, he will be hands out one of the major superstars before very long, and echoing pretty much everything his uncle and his father did by coming over to the British Championships and dominating in the 80s and early 90s and over here as well. So it's certainly a realistic possibility that he could be eyeing up a switch to the British Championship or maybe the Ulster Superbike Championship on the short circuits.
Tell us about John McGuinness. What's he been up to lately? I hear he's been testing.
Yes, today, in fact, both him and Peter Hickman, they got to play with their brand new Norton Super Lightweight toys ahead of the Isle of Man TT. They were testing. Do you want to know where they were testing? Not usually the first place you'd associate a very high-powered bike to go around.
Monza.
Okay, it's in this country.
Okay.
I'll give you one more guess.
Silverstone.
Not Kill.
I suppose in terms of proximity to barriers, you're slightly closer, Liam. No, it was Rockingham. Yes, that stadium track is still standing. It hasn't been bulldozed yet. It's been shut for racing, but it's still open for testing.
Really?
How do I know this? Well, Stuart Gardner, CEO of Norton, posted a video just a couple of hours before we came on air
to the internet.
Hickman and McGuinness having far too much fun on their bikes.
I wouldn't call Rockingham fun.
It looked like they were having a lot of fun, very Daytona style with the banking.
Was this on his Twitter, was it?
Yes,
okay.
It was.
Twitter.
The two of them, they've been shaking down the bikes, testing them ahead of the Isle of Man TT, the lightweight class, which they're determined to beat the patterns this year over there. So that's what they've been getting up to. So a nice gentle warm for Hickman before the ferocity of BSB this weekend going over there. Alistair Seeley, we have mentioned, so that is all your road racing news covered.
Yeah, excellent. I'm just literally trying to find. You said it was on Stuart Gardner's, because I'm fascinated to see. I didn't actually know it was at Rockingham. I thought
it was his tweet, or he retweeted it from someone else. I believe it. I found it.
I have to see this. If I find it, I will play it for you.
It's a little phone video.
Is it bad quality? What's Stuart Gardner's Twitter? Let's do this. Let's play it. Let's find it. Is it at Stuart Gardner? I don't know, Norton. I found it the other week when he was arguing with that journalist. But
at Norton _CEO.
Oh, okay. Norton. Well, it would be, wouldn't it?
There it is. It's the first one that comes up.
Oh, his accounts, his tweets are protected. Protected from journalists like me, I suppose, for good reason. Anyway, so I can't play that right now.
It's only a little.
No, just because I've not seen like bikes go around there in a long time.
I know it. I think we should get some small bike races going down there. It obviously wouldn't be declared safe for big super bikes and probably super stock thousands, but potentially anything up to super sports, you could probably run a race fairly safely around there.
Well, I know Thundersport.
Certainly Hickman and McGuinness had a lot of fun slipstreaming each other down the main straight today, judging by that little video that's gone on. So
yeah,
it's
okay. Fair
happy
enough.
news.
Yeah, good. That was because I knew he was testing, but I didn't know exactly when.
Happy news for Norton, because there's still been no official announcement over whether McGuinness and Norton will be able to race the Norton Superbike, the SG8 at the Northwest 200 this year, because we covered this probably a month or so ago now, in that because it's a V4, but it's 1200cc engine capacity, it's too big engine for Superbike regulations. V4 has to be 1000cc. So
there's
been nothing announced. don't believe there's been anything announced as to whether they've been given special dispensation to race it, or whether they have to use the older SG7 if they want to race.
Well, talking about engine sizes and stuff and technical whatsits, going back to the Alistair Seeley Dealey that we were talking about a moment ago. John Whelan, been on. Hello, John. Thanks for tuning in. He says, is the V4S not a larger capacity engine than the 1000 V4R?
I believe they're all 1000cc. That's the big thing about the V4 is that because their old Panigale, the V-twin, which was 1200cc, which is how they managed to get it racing in all the other classes, because it was a V-twin, it had to run at a higher power to be competitive. But they've changed that now with the V4 engine, that they're all 1000cc's. I believe they're all 1000cc's. Gosh, now I'm going to have to check that.
Okay, I'll take your word for that. No, it's okay. Don't. Yeah, that's fine. Yes, I'm very technical and know what I'm talking about. Hello. Also to Andrew Hall, been on, and gives a shout out to Jones Darling Racing Team, who he hopes for a podium again this round. Good shout, says Andrew Hall. There we go. And thank you very much for tuning in. So it is unbelievably the end of the show.
Whoa.
I know.
Where'd I go?
I know, right? Literally gossiping for 2 hours talking about bikes. Oh. So just before we do go, has Liam, got any other bits to mention?
Just one wee thing that's not really big, but it's something I skimmed over earlier on, and just looking back at my notes, I forgot I put it there, is that Turn 6 at Jerez will be named after Danny Pedrosa this weekend. So formerly known as Dry Sack Corner. And if you remember last year, it was the scene of the big crash between Pedrosa, Dovizioso and Lorenzo. So Jerez tend to they tend to have a funny bone in them. Yeah.
When you say it's going to be named after him, is that just as a temporary thing?
No, it'll be permanent. So if you remember back to 2013, Jorge Lorenzo was given the last corner of the circuit, which is now Lorenzo's, and Marc Marquez done a Valentino Rossi on him and bars them off the circuit. So they seem to preempt things are going to happen at that corner, so name the rider after them. And now this year they've decided to call Dry Sack Pedrosa's, and that's the scene of his big accident with Lorenzo and Dovizioso last year. So that's going to be a lot of fun talking about that. I
am kind of glad that they have renamed it from its previous.
Yeah, Dry Sack. Yeah, I'm sure it means something different and better in Spanish, but yeah, can be interpreted the wrong way.
Cue an extremely paranoid Lorenzo this weekend every time he approaches that corner to look around for the tiny little samurai, just to make sure he hasn't got to the apex.
Yeah,
it won't be Stefan Bradl. I forgot to say that as well. Stefan Bradl will be wildcarding this weekend. What I was going to say there is it won't be Stefan Bradl on that bike. It'll be Danny Pedrosa just waiting to torpedo Lorenzo again.
Oh yeah, I think that's like that. Look, Duffy and Lorenzo ran horrendously wide into that corner, and Pedrosa nailed the entry and was on the racing line when Lorenzo came back and wiped them all out. So
and then you had the comical moment of Dovizioso trying to pick up Lorenzo's bike and Lorenzo trying to pick up Dovizioso's.
Almost like a scene from out of Cool Fab Racing.
To be fair, what was Pedrosa supposed to do? Jam on the brakes and say, no, after you, bitter rival.
It wasn't Pedrosa's fault because he was leaning off the bike, so he wouldn't have known Lorenzo Lorenzo was going to come back onto that line, so his eyesight would have been looking towards the exit of the corner and down towards the next.
Yeah.
It was just true typical fashion for Pedrosa throughout his career. He always came off worse.
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, it should have been him that came off, not even falling off it, but then his bike barrels about 10,000 times and he's flung into the air. Yeah, poor guy.
Anyway.
Poor.
We'll see what happens with events down and at the old Dry Sack or
the Pedrosa sack now. Sorry.
And on that mental image, we'll end tonight's show. Thank you very much for tuning in to the Superbike Show on Motorsport Radio. We will be back on Monday for Monday Motorsport, I think, and talking about everything that happened at the weekend, minus the bikes, because Or we might actually talk about bikes, actually, because we might be busy next Thursday. Anyway, keep an eye out on social media. Thank you very much for tuning in. Andrew Hall, John Whelan, and Nat Jarvis as well, and loads of other people, including Grant Hodgins as well, who correctly points out that Liam has been incorrect for most of the show, I think.
But I'm right about everything else.
He says, which is wrong. So thank you anyway, and we'll be back again very shortly on social media. Until then, do follow our at M Sport Radio Twitters, and we'll provide live commentary and witty banter over the weekend during the racing, and we'll see you at Alton Park as well if you're not there also, and if you do manage to see any of us from Motorsport Radio, come and say hello, come and say oi, you're talking crap. But that's about it, really, just from us. Thank you very much, and we'll see you again same time next week, maybe?
The Superbike Show on Motorsport Radio.
Hey everyone, Bradley Smith.
Hi guys, I'm Danny Buchan.
I am Tom Sykes.
This is Motorsport Radio.
We can play some.